Howdy friends, Westlake here. Hey, wanted to jump in with you today and just go through a quick overview of how I built some sounds that are free for you. If you are a user of the HX Stomp, this is something that I've picked up recently to just take on the road and to use when honestly, like when I'm playing at church or I've used it in the studio. It's just become a really great tool. And so there's going to be a link in the description of this video or somewhere on this webpage where you can go and download these 6 sounds that I built into a little pack that's built completely from things that come stock on the HX Stomp. And so hopefully that's helpful to you. I just want to walk you through how I built one sound today, give you some tips and tricks on some things that I'm listening for when I'm building sounds so that you can be better equipped to know how to build your own sounds and to go through and tinker with things and know kind of what to be listening for. And so I've got the HX editor software pulled up, and I've got this matchless preset pulled up. So I'm going to turn off everything. Every preset in this package is the amp, an EQ, a little compression, and then I've got a delay and a verb. The delay is just kind of a normal dotted 8 that you can tap into whatever tempo you're playing with. And then the verb is like a really long washy verb that I like if I was doing pad sounds. But I really am using the HX Stomp more as just a amp simulator because I have my pedal board that I'm using for all my effects. So these sounds that you're able to download are primarily kind of for if you're just replacing an amp and are using effects on something like your pedal board. And so we'll jump over and I'll show you this sound. So I've got the EQ and the dynamics and the delay and the verb turned off. So this is just the amp sound coming from the HX Stomp. So if you'll look, I've got the drive set at 3.5, the low end's at right around 4.5. I'm cutting just a little bit of top end just because the kind of digital top end that you can get is not really my favorite. It just kind of sounds fizzly, and so I've got the cut a little bit, and then I turn off the hum because it's designed, if you can listen, it's designed to simulate amp hum, which I just don't really want. I've got the sag, which is basically kind of the natural compression of the amp when you're running an amp hot. I've got that at about half, and the 2 bias controls are also at half. And then we can jump over to this cab. I'm using the 4038 ribbon sample. It's based off of the Coles 4038. I like ribbon mics on electric guitars because they have a little bit more of extended low end, and the high end's a little bit more warm than something like a 57 or a 421. So especially for sounds where I'm on my bridge pickup and really driving, if I kick on a boost. Let me show you what like a 57 would sound like. And then I'll switch back to this 4038. So you can hear it's a pretty big difference between the 57 and the ribbon mics. And so I just like the warmth and kind of the low kind of rumble that you can get out of the 4038. And then I've got the distance. You can adjust how far the mic is away from the speaker. So the closer you get to an amp, usually the more low end you're going to get, and because of the proximity effect, and the further away, you're going to get more of the room sound around it, and you're going to get things are going to flatten out a little bit. You're not going to have as accentuated of a low end. I like having that accentuated low end, and I like the kind of closer sound, and so that's why I have this set that way. But when you have it close, you can get too much of the like subharmonic, really low lows, and so there's a low cut feature in here that I've rolled up because honestly, with electric guitar, we don't need anything really below 100 hertz. But I have this set to 80 because that's where kick and bass drum and some other like low piano It's where that stuff's kind of living. So when I'm creating a sound, I'm thinking I want to have a full range of things, but I don't need to extend into the sub lows and the super high highs, because there are other things in a mix that are going to be covering that. So I'm rolling out some of the high end on the high cut to get rid of some of that fizzly distortion or digital sound that I'm able to kind of hear with these headphones, or when I'm using like studio cans. And so that's why I have that rolled down a little bit. The early reflections are kind of like a natural, small, tight reverb sound, and so I have that blended in just a little bit because it helps kind of combat, since we are not using an actual amp in an actual space with actual air moving, it can tend to sound a little bit DI, fake kind of, and so dialing in these early reflections helps with that quite a bit. So I'll play with it on, and then I'll turn it off so you can hear the difference. So you can hear on those scrapes, there's just this really small kind of reverb sound. So I have this dialed in around 25%. Next is the EQ. So I'm cutting out just a little bit of 200 hertz, a little bit of 500 hertz, and a little bit of 900 hertz. When with direct sounding, or things that I'm plugged in direct, like the HX Stomp, I notice around 1K there's kind of this like quacky, it's the same sort of thing when you plug in an acoustic guitar just straight in, then the way it sounds different than when you're micing it. There's just kind of that 1K boost that just kind of makes things sound kind of fake and plugged in, and so I've dialed that back a little bit. And then because of the type of amp that I'm using with matchlesses, they can be a little mid-forward, which I like, but I'm taming just a little bit of that in this 500 hertz, and then a little bit of 200, which is where some of that like low end like resonance can be, and so getting rid of some of that without cutting all the low end out, because I still want a lot of that body. And then I've got just a little bit of compression on there to kind of glue things together. I do it after the amp because it treats it more like a studio environment where you've recorded an amp and then you're running through outboard gear. So that's why I have EQ and compression on afterwards, and then same with delay and reverb. It would be like putting in a delay post recording your amp. So in Pro Tools or Logic or whatever, using a plugin is kind of how I'm thinking about using these different blocks. Instead of putting them before, like they're on my pedal board and running into the amp, I have them after, like I'm using them as plugins, is the way I've thought about that. And so really what I'm looking for, let me turn off all of these again and show you the difference. So they're off now. And so when I hear it, it's just a little tighter. Things are a little more focused when I have the EQ and the dynamics on. Depending on your guitar, though, with this is a Gretsch Broadcaster. The frequencies that I need to scoop out and carve out might be a little different than what guitar you're using. And so what I would encourage you to do is use the HX Edit software and turn an EQ gain all the way up, and then kind of sweep the frequency spectrum until you hear an area that's kind of a hot spot where all of a sudden it jumps out and it's real resonant. That's an area to maybe dial back a little bit that's more accentuated naturally with your guitar, and that's kind of how you can identify where some of the problem spots might be. So there's 5 other presets. So I dialed in an AC30 sound, so I'll just scroll through them real quick and show you. It's just a normal AC30. All of these are set to where if you dig in, they're going to break up a little bit, but if you pick quiet, there's clean if you play quiet. So that's the AC30. Here's the matchless again. divided by 13. Little Dr. Z. A clean kind of Fender amp. And then I have this one that I just called 80s Goodies. That's just a no amp. It's running through like a jazz chorus, so it sounds more like it's plugged direct in. There's a pretty strong compressor on after it, a chorus on. If you turn off, I also got this growler synth engine. Just as something fun to play around with. It's EQ'd a little bit, and then there's a little verb just to give it some space. So with each of these sounds, hopefully, if you have kind of a flavor of amp that you like playing through, whether it's more traditional AC30s, this will give you a pretty standard, what I think feels like for the stock sounds that come with the HX Stomp, a pretty good AC30 sound, a good kind of more modern matchless sound. The divided by 13 is cool. It's like a tighter low end, a little more high frequency, heavy, kind of spitty, cool cutting sound. The Dr. Z is good. I really like the clean sounds on it. And the deluxe reverb is really great for clean sounds. And then there's that 80s Goodies one, just for fun, as something to practice with. So principles that I'm looking for, like we covered in this matchless, if you look again, I want that good kind of low end. So I'm using a ribbon mic or something like that, so I don't have to turn the bass up on the amp a whole lot, because that'll cause the amp's overdrive to act a little differently. Getting a good amount of treble from the amp, turned off the hum because I don't want buzz, and then on the EQ I'm just listening for some of those hot spots where if I turned it up and I sweep the frequency spectrum, it'll kind of go ooh, with wherever you hear that resonance is maybe a trouble spot for your instrument, and so you can cut out just a little bit of that so that things stay a little more even. And then once you've found those trouble spots, adding just a little bit of compression can help kind of tighten things up. So all of these sounds are available to you for free in the link around this video. Be sure to check out a pedal board series that I did either on YouTube, on the Worship Initiative website, where I walk through how I use my effects, and then I also break down an approach to using overdrive, different types of delay effects and reverb effects, so you're able to learn how to use everything that you've acquired to its fullest potential and have a little bit more of an understanding of what all the different parameters do. So hope this video has been helpful to you. Be on the lookout for this and a whole lot of other electric training content that's coming your way. Be sure to check out learning paths over on the Worship Initiative website. Be sure to check out all the song training videos, hundreds of songs that you and your church are likely singing or singing songs like that. We've just built this whole land of resources for electric guitar players, bassists, keyboardists, acoustic guitar players, vocalists, worship leaders, to just resource you to be able to lead well and to be equipped to use all of the tools that you've acquired just as a way to be a faithful steward and to love and serve the people that God's put you in life with to love and serve. And so feel free to reach out to us through the chat bubble over on the Worship Initiative website. Ask to speak with me if you've got guitar questions. If you're play a different instrument, we've got instrument coaches for you as well. So head over to the Worship Initiative website if you're watching this on YouTube, and explore all the other resources we have available for you. So until we hear from you or see you in the next video, blessings to you.